Hi, welcome back to Mountain Gym Card Collectibles. So, lately I've been noticing a lot of kind of back and forth on the issue of breakers basically fighting back against the narrative that they are destroying the sports card hobby. And I've been seeing more and more of this on X lately. And I suppose that we can all look at breakers as the scapegoat, for our hobby going down the toilet for most average people. At least when it comes to sports cards. When you think of businesses, like a good business, where you look at the business and you look up to it, like they have a lot of moral values. What sort of businesses are those, that you're looking at, that are definitely doing a better job than, say, a business like a sports card breaking business. I used to sell cars. I had people basically tell me to my face, that they don't like me because I sell cars. And I haven't been a car salesman, a legitimate actual car salesman. Now, I still sell cars on my own privately, but I haven't been a legitimate auto car salesman since 2003. But I had to put up with a lot of BS because, well, I'm a car salesman, and everyone looks at car salesmen like they're scumbags. All right. So I've been in the boat. All right. But when I look at sports card breaking businesses, I just think it's scumbags on steroids myself. I just look at them like they're as bad as it gets. But then again, they're not as bad as it gets because you have to look at the corporation who is helping them out. And we all know who those corporations are now, don't we? Topps Fanatics, Michael Rubin, Panini, the big corporate monopolies, more or less, of the sports card hobby. And so I got into this post today, and it asks a great question. Breakers are ruining the hobby, okay? And how are you helping it? Well, I dug into this guy's bio. It doesn't say he's a breaker. It says he's an eBay partner, travels the world for sports cards. So, there's a good chance that this guy is not a breaker, okay? But maybe he likes breaking, all right? So let's hit some of the comments here. I constantly spread information about how unique stuff I'm buying and how well it's doing while simultaneously shitting on bad actors. And so this guy's, making that argument, it's not a breaker, obviously, but, he's helping out the hobby. Okay, so here's someone who's kind of sticking up for breakers to an extent. Breakers suck, but at least they provide content to the hobby. And they're posting this thing up, from the guy who originally posted this. How are there 1,000 cookie cutter Pokemon streamers that have no personality but opening up packs? Look, sports breakers suck, but at least there's some originality in that sphere of content creation and collecting. I don't know. I honestly, I prefer to watch some of the cookie cutter Pokemon streamers myself, Why is that? Because they're true blue collectors for the most part, hobbyists. They're more than likely keeping what they're ripping open, like true collectors for the most part. Yeah, I guess I prefer that over watching breaking company videos. By continuing to gatekeep. Yeah, I mean, we try our best to gatekeep in this hobby, but we can't do that, Breaking companies have been given the keys to the kingdom for collecting, unfortunately, And if you're just a consumer, you're just trying to survive in this day and age, everything is going to be so expensive these days, A lot of times we have to cut things out of our lives, and sports cards, definitely be one of those things that we have to cut out of our lives. Meanwhile, the breakers just get the best of the best day in and day out. Nice whataboutism, much easier than admitting you are part of the problem and or protecting it and changing yourself, cry and say, but look at them, wah. Not actively ruining the hobby, like some breakers, is helping in and of itself. And that's just it. They act like we're just crybabies or something. Well, the thing is if you were in this hobby for many years, I started in 1985 for the most part. The way it feels to me is that the big corporations on top, Topps, Fanatics, and Michael Rubin, they've decided that the best cards will go to the breaking companies with the big prices out the gate. All right. And hey, if you want to chase base Cooper flags, I know there's so many YouTube channels hyping that up right now. You can chase all the Cooper flag base cards you want. I'm not going to hold you back, but it's that tiered marketing system to where you can just go into the eBay environment, look it up for yourself, okay? Look up Cooper flag autos, and that's what the breakers are more or less getting. Look at the value there. And then look at the value of your Cooper flag base cards, just the parallels, Chrome base, Series 1 base, whatever. There isn't really any value there, So they're always, saying that, the hanger packs are bangers. But I've watched so many YouTube videos, for 2025, 2026 Topps Chrome basketball, where I just don't really believe the hangers are the bangers, because let's face it, the most valued cards are not in hangers. They're not in retail. They're in hobby. And I've said it before, I just don't understand why sports cards always have to have these different tiers, for marketing to consumers, It's a joke to an extent, because when I walk up to my Walmart retail, I could care less, for Topps Chrome, because I know what's in there, I know that the best hit's not going to be valued very much, unfortunately. So that's why I don't believe in retail sports cards. And to an extent, I just think that retail sports cards are hurting the hobby at this point. I just think that Walmart should have hobby cards. You should at least have an opportunity to get an awesome card, and they're just not giving that to you. And I know a lot of people will sit here and stick up for retail sports cards day and night, night and day. But you don't see other cards doing that, retail versus hobby. I mean, I go to my LCS, he has the same Pokemon cards that I see at the Walmart or the Target. You see, my point here is that it would be nice to have the sports card market acting the same way. I buy and sell cards. I promote the hobby. I sometimes pile on the problem children. I am relentless in trashing backyard breaks. I mean, I am too. I just don't see the point of breaking companies. I know that they want to make themselves out to be, these great individuals who are helping out the hobby, but we all know they're not helping out the hobby. We know that they are destroying the sports card hobby and pushing more and more people out of it. And if they go anywhere else, it's likely TCG. I'm not going to say breakers are ruining the hobby, but all anyone needs to do to help the hobby is buy singles. Laugh out loud. If everyone had a PC player and was constantly buying singles, this hobby would be booming. Well, I sell singles. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say don't buy singles. I sell singles on eBay. I've sold them elsewhere as well, But it would just be nice, to have an opportunity to rip open boxes where I don't have to buy into a break and go through all the chicanery that, stepping up to a breaking table leads to. I've never bought into a break, just so you know. I never plan on. That's just because, well, I'm kind of an older guy, I'm getting ready to turn 51 here. I mean, when I grew up, I never heard of braking companies, you know. I mean, braking companies to me are just kind of a new leech on the hobby, if you know what I mean. You know, I mean, there's so many leeches out there, but I just feel like braking companies are the biggest leech for the hobby. And the big guys on top right now, especially Michael Rubin, they love them. They love that, you know, that they have this tiered system of sports cards. But the thing about this tiered system of sports cards is it drawing in the youth. I mean, I can hang out at my LCS all day, and 9 out of the 10 youthful people that come in there that look fairly young are buying TCG. You know, I mean, do you honestly believe that, you know, they're going to get into a break, you know, at what, age 12, age 13, age 15, you know, age 17, 19, whatever, when they can just go to the LCS, buy their packs of Pokemon or Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, whatever, that they've budgeted that's affordable. Why do you believe a young kid would get into breaking? I mean, maybe they want to start a breaking company, but do you honestly think a young kid is going to get a job at, say, age 15 or 16, work part-time, and likely not even have enough from working part-time for 2 weeks to get into a break? Give me a break on that issue, because I just don't see it happening. And this is the toughest part for the sports card realm to understand. This hobby is driven by youth. And I know that sounds crazy, but I can just see it at my LCS. I've always seen it in this hobby. It's driven by youth. And right now I feel like sports cards are pushing away youth. Why? Because they've chosen greed over attracting youth into the market, you know. The prices are out of control. Kids are just like me. You know, they don't want to be treated like third class or second class people. You know, they want the first class stuff. And so all the channels on YouTube who are hyping up, you know, the retail sports card chase, I just wish you'd stop. I just wish you'd understand what's going on in the market. The market is more or less youth-based, okay? And the youth have been priced out. So it is what it is. Here's my thing. I don't care about breakers getting the hits. Obviously, it is partially a numbers game. They have the volume, they get the more and bigger hits. Problem I have with breakers are the predatory bully ones I've seen at shows where they bully vendors for singles. Yeah, I have seen people like that at card shows too, and they're like these know-it-all grifters who push people around, you know. I've had one even get in my face for, I was wearing a mask at a card show. I've never had anyone ever get in my face for wearing a mask, you know. But I was at a card show back in, when was it? 2023. And I had a vendor who was from a different city get in my face because I was wearing a mask. And like, what is it about sports card people that they just feel like they can step on anyone's toes who they please? You know what I mean? And I know that guy's table said something that they like to do breaks and all this and that. And I'm like, yeah, it really does fit it. I mean, all these other people at that show were very nice and kind. You step up to the breaking table, they're in your face, they're getting in your face because you're wearing a mask. I mean, it's as rude and crude as can be. I mean, so I'm not sure if you're running into that, but, you know, in my local area, when I run into a breaker who's saying that they're a breaker, they're one of the rudest and crudest beasts I've ever met, you know. Really a bad look. By telling people that breakers are ruining it, you know. Yeah, we do our best, you know. I know we're all hoping to shut down, you know, the breaking business so that we can have the hobby for ourselves once again. Because once again, I mean, I grew up, never saw any breaking companies in the 20th century. Not one that I can recall. Why would we need breaking companies in the 20th century? Because we could all afford the stuff and break them at home ourselves. Facilitating a place for collectors to BST and running breaks at as close to cost as possible for collectors by collectors. I don't think breakers are bad, but allocating a large percentage for breakers and fanatics running their own breaking platform is just a monopoly, not good. Yeah, I mean, and the owner of my LCS would say that too. The breakers are getting most of the best stuff. It's all a trickle down market at this point. And you have to ask yourself, what truly is a breaking company? Because I know there's a lot of channels on YouTube that call themselves breakers, but they're not really legitimate breaking companies. My issue is with a breaking company over, say, I like to watch Striker Breaks, okay? I don't really consider Striker Breaks to be a breaker. He's more like a guy like me who's spending a lot of his own cash to do what he likes to do. I don't have anything against anyone like Striker Breaks. In fact, I have been watching him longer than anyone else on YouTube, and I still watch him. What I have a problem with is these big breaking companies like Backyard Breaks, okay? And I think there's a lot of confusion in that lane as well. I hope that someone like Striker Breaks doesn't think I'm ever attacking them. I would never attack these small breakers because let's be honest, they're more or less like I was back in the day. You know what I mean? I could afford to buy a lot more stuff. So anyway, I just want to clear that up, because breakers seem to, that word just covers too many people. You know what I mean? My issue is with breaking companies, especially breaking companies who are tied to Fanatics Live. They're the ones who I feel have really played a big part in brooming a lot of collectors out of this hobby, if you know what I mean. Watching the bricks fall one by one with popcorn and not draining my bank account. Yeah. That's just it, I'm kind of doing the same thing, I am not diving into a break. I am not going to gamble my money away for some big hotshot card of the month or the season. I'm too smart. I've been doing this for too long. That's why I'm always surprised to see all the people, going 1,000% on Cooper Flag. I could do the same. I'll likely buy some Cooper Flag cards, but I'm not going to spend much. And you know where I'll buy them at my LCS, of course. He'll have them like at $1 or $2. That's the problem here. That's the problem I have with this. But you see, he won't have the better Cooper Flag cards because we know all the better Cooper Flag cards are going to the breakers. And those are the big autos. Those are the ones that have the cash. Those are the ones that they like to hype up. The retail stuff, you're chasing parallels. And I'm burned out of chasing parallels, I'd rather chase some good, meat on the bone autos, if you know what I mean. So what are you bringing to the hobby that the breaking companies are not bringing to the hobby? Are you bringing a lot of good things or are you bringing a lot of bad things? If you've watched my channel, I do not like breaking companies because I've said it many times, breakers always come first in this hobby nowadays. And I just don't like that, especially growing up in the 20th century to where you could just do what you wanted affordably, and it was fun. Wasn't stressful. And do you believe that breaking companies should be the entire scapegoat for what's going on in the sports card hobby at this point? Or do you also want to point your fingers at the manufacturers, namely Topps Fanatics and Michael Rubin, who holds all these monopolistic sports licenses that he's just milking to no end here, they could have done that in the 90s too, they could have got rid of all the other companies that, had sports licenses and just left it to Topps to sit and just milk us to no end too. But that didn't happen. And a lot of people want to, point fingers at the junk wax era like it was a bad thing. But for collectors, I feel like the junk wax era was a good thing, because you could get into products that were licensed. You didn't have to spend a lot of money. you could go to sleep at night, and go, geez, I got some good hits, I didn't spend a lot of money. I still have money to do my other things. It's just not that way anymore, is it? It's just, to me, I've had one of my best fishing holes closed off by Northwestern Energy, the big monopolistic electrical company here in Montana. And they just fenced it off. I went there for decades and decades, and they fenced it off. And they didn't just fence it off. They put like Berlin Wall style type barbed wire. I mean, it's just insane. I'm like, what are they afraid someone's going to do here? I mean, are they afraid I might go in and catch a fish? You know what I mean? And to me, that is what Michael Rubin, Tops Fanatics, and the braking companies have done for average Joes like me, to say the least. They have pushed us out of our hobby. And they can say, stick with, your singles and stick with this and stick with that. But, anyone who does a hobby doesn't want to be doing it, like a scrub, if you know what I mean. I don't want to be the scrub guy in the hobby. I want to be first class. I don't want to be riding in the damn luggage bin here on this plane, And more often than not, I get told in this hobby, well, just be happy with riding in the luggage bin. Go buy your singles. That's for you. As far as these big boxes with the big hits go, that's not for you. That's for big braking companies who want to spend a lot of money. What a joke. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I'd like to thank my subscriber base. You're the reasons I always do these episodes. I mean, because I'm not monetized. And I'd like to thank my viewers who haven't subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, it's 100% free. Just click the subscription button. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I'm out of here. Bye.